Happy third line day, my friends. Would you like to investigate into a realm of the human design system called the 6 mystical ways? Well, I know I do. Rave Cosmology is the mystical aspect of the human design system, part of Ra's gray courses where we can experiment with deeper layers and levels of keynoting to find out our path to awakening. I'm LaVeena Archers. Welcome to this brief introduction. Practice and play a little bit with a new presentation for you. Starting to kick off a new series of Rave Cosmology materials starting on Monday. So I'd like to invite you, if it's right for you, to join us on a radical adventure into the depths of your awakening. Now, this mystical way is coming to an end. Ra says it's very important for understanding this as far as not where it's going to take us, because its time is nearly done. 2027 brings an end to the mystical circuit, so we only have a couple more years before it will be completely finished, because it won't be driven towards awakening it, the body graph it. It will no longer function in the way that it has as far as how it's been a mystical circuit. As long as there has been a potential in humanity to awaken, the mystical circuit has been around. And in 2027, that door is closing. The rave, the new emergence of a new variation of our human species, is bringing forth a mutation in our body graph. It doesn't mean that all children born after 2027 will be a rave, but it does mean that everyone born after 2027 will have a different body graph. The creative fertility of the human species is dying because this strain of our species in this evolutionary progression, our Homo sapien intransitus, as Ra would call us, that is what is coming to an end. And the rave is all about this new emergence, this variation of the human species morphing, transforming. And we've had these events many times before. You can think back to Neanderthals and Cro-Magnon. The historical evolution is in the formula. When it comes to our time is nearly done. Our time is at an end. Our meaning you and I being 9-centered Homo sapiens intransitus, as Ra would call us. We're in a body that does not have the same kind of capability that those born after 2027 will have, because the body graph is under mutative pressure. And when we go through this semester, the beauty and the potential of our own individual awakenness, to be able to see what this form has brought us to as far as our potential, is so that we can see what exactly is coming to an end. The way that we understand the nature of our being deeply transformed during the next cycle. So instead of seeing this as a death, why not see it like truly death is, a doorway that we can walk through, metamorphosis, a transformation of what we know to be true in our human species, the viability of this human form and its mutative potential. When we look at the mystical way, and here it is, 19 to 49, 37 to 40, 51 to 25, and then 10 to 20. This mystical way is simply a circuit. Body graph circuitry is a collection of frequency or chemistry, these channels, the life force that is inherent within a being. You will either have it defined, as in colored in, or you will have it white, as in open. But everyone has their own path to awakening. So remember, if you've taken Rave ABCs or cartography, how we have circuitry? Think of the body graph like a circuit board. You're taught these basic fundamental circuitries. The individuality, which is about empowerment, the tribal nature of being, which is about support, and the sharing that comes from being a collective creature. So when we look at those either logic, collective, sensing, abstract, individual, which is about empowerment, and so forth, tribe being this aspect here. Here you can see the stream that is about need and sensitivity to touch, and looking for affection and loyalty, and the filling of one's stomach. So it's just to see that this mystical way is another one of those circuits. The key in circuitry is always going to be the same. We have to start with pressure. When we look at the circuits, and there are very many, quite fascinating, we look at the circuits and we just look at them separate from everything else, as in isolating down to specific pathways. Remember, the Judaic Kabbalah have paths. These are like our pathways through the evolutionary nature of being. And what we get to understand is that all circuits are under pressure. They have to be. It's either the dynamic pressure of the adrenaline system, the adrenal glands, the root, which is our drive and stamina to evolve. Or you might say the mental realm drives pressure and streams as well. Circuitry is all about pressure, whether it's head center pressure or whether it's physical pressure from the root. And without pressure, the circuit has no fuel, no drive, no pressure. There's nothing to move it, to evolve the process and move it along. So it is a prerequisite. In order to have a circuit, we must have pressure. And here we have the pressure to awaken, the gate of approach, part of the autive circuit that we explored in the 2027 semester of Rave Cosmology. And when we look at the stream itself, the first thing that you want to look at and process and understand here in the drive to awaken, we have this pressure of the mystical stream, the mystical way, rooted quite literally in the root, in the 19th gate, this gate of approach. And we talk about 2027 as the background frequency shifts into the mutative era, the new age, where it is about the empowerment of the individual. And we begin to deal with mutation. Already we see it, the precursors. We see that in autistic children. When we're approaching the 2027 shift relative to this 19th gate, the first thing is that the dilemma is not so much that the 19th wants to cut off its relationship with the emotional system. Now, if we think about what the emotional system is, it's the emotion, energy in motion, this awareness that operates through a wave, an emotional wave. So the dilemma is that these root gates, they attempt to lock in the wave to one feeling or desire, one passion, or this internal knowing or not, or one need. And without that lock here, what will happen to our principles? Will there be a revolution? Or will we stand here in confusion? When we look at the real revolution of the 49, the real revolution of these principled tribal natures is that the emotional system will cut itself off from the drive. And that is the drive that is about the pressure to be sensitive to other people's needs. The drive to be needed, the need to be wanted. This is the gate of approach. How do we approach our tribe? Will they fulfill our needs or not? So the emotional system cutting off itself from the drive, that 19th gate, being cut off from the pressure to evolve in a way that supports our individuation of awakening. So when we look at the octave circuit and this transitional architecture relative to the nature of understanding the mutation of the Homo sapiens into rave creatures, I refer you back to jovianarchive.com, type in 2027. You'll find information there. It is important to understand, particularly if you're going to be working with children in future. If you already work with the autistic population, it's important to understand this, to know that you're not alone, to know that this is part of the evolutionary process of what it is to be human, and that we are not. So Ra would say that the current autistic are failed mutation, but not that we don't have a place. I know we don't have to try and fit in, my dear friends. We are born to stand out. We can allow ourselves to be different, to be unique, even though we might be seen as freakish. It is part of the nature of some of us and our being. When we look at the 19th gate, and we see that it is leading us to the 49, where we have the channel of synthesis, a design of being sensitive, linking the root, connecting the root through tribal circuitry to the emotional system, where we have principled potential for bargains. There's not need for passion here, it's physical need for touch. Passion is about the air, the breath, the body, being able to communicate with or without words. You ever have a deep sigh of relief? You ever breathe out or breathe in? That's 55, this passion business. Need is not like that. Need is touch-oriented, driven for communal support. Or not. Ross says that it has to be deeply understood here that when the 19th gate is cut off from the 49, we're not just talking about the impact of a circuit losing its pressure source. Need is not about desire, that passion, that fire. Very different than tribal touch. People either want touch or not. Have you ever noticed that when you're in a mood, when you have an attitude, you don't want to be touched? No, don't touch me. Don't want that hug. You reject that touch or that principle. We are talking about the ramifications of an enormous aspect of what it is or has been to be human. Have you already seen the need for love, honor, and obey dying? Relationships in marriage are no longer till death do us part. Humanity is losing its fertile drive to live in communal support. Look at how many people live all on their own in aloneness, not within the nuclear or extended family construct. These needs that give humanity the ability to live in tribal glued bargains and bonds. It's not just about losing our drive for awakening. It's much more than just the mystical way. This is about our drive to bond with others in our communal support systems. The drive, the synthesis, the pressure to be sensitive to other people's needs so that we can have affection and loyalty. this bonding and bargains in order to live in community or family, or have our structures of schools and governments, and however it is that human beings come together, religions, churches, state. How is that breaking down? Have you seen it? How empty are your schools or your churches or your governments? Shutting down the entire government? Have you seen that? Is that what it's like for you in your country too? Gate 49 is the gate of revolution, principles. Ideally, the transformation of forms based on the highest principles, and not simply for power. And Histidine is the linking between these two gates. Gate 55, the abundance, gate of spirit. Abundance is strictly a question of spirit. So we have this revolutionary gate, what Ra calls a kind of black ghost to the white 55. The hidden companion, 49 is, the dark companion of the 55, gate of abundance and spirit. They are both of the same codon. They both have very deeply similar chemistries. They are both mutating. Whatever is happening to the 55th gate in the process of bringing its mutation to the solar system at the chemical level, histidine. This is also taking place within the context of the 49, because the 49 is being deeply impacted by it. Literally pulling away from, disconnecting from, decoupling from that 19. The thing to recognize about the mutation is that when mutation hits that 49, it cuts that link. And so why are we having this last dying gasp of fundamentalism, socialism, communism? Everybody rushing around trying to synthesize things before we lose our common ground, our pressure to awaken. What's actually happening in this mutation, the deepest thing that Ra wants us to think about, is that this phenomenon of how we understand the emotional intelligence of the solar plexus is through its wave principle, in that there are emotional energy, either peaks, spikes, jacking up the wave, or crashing. That's the only way we have access to spirit awareness here and now in these forms. You ever think about how and why awakening never lasts? It comes and goes, and it comes and goes in waves. There is a pulse to awakening. It's here, and then it's gone. The emotional system, chemistry, frequency field, up and down, yeah? Surf the waves. It's the only way we have access to this awareness principle. This is a motor. We are helpless to, choiceless to the fact that we operate through a wave. When we think about where the neediness comes from the wave, or the passion, where does it come from? Through the wave. Or the desire, that burning, clinging fire, where does it come from? It comes from the emotional frequency field going up and down, feeling alternating, up and down, jacking itself up and crashing down, spiking itself up and plunging down. Long, slow build of desire up, and we crash down. Because what goes up must come down with the emotional system in its current state, vibrating with its need or passion or desire. This is the alternating experience that an emotional person experiences quite regularly. No choice in that. This need driven by the fact that there is no stability in the wave. There's always going to be something to need. You feed your stomach, It's full, and then it empties. We release the mass, and we need, or desire, or long for, filling it up again. This emotional system pulses, ratchets, rises and crashes based upon what its longing for fullness is genetically imprinted, my mind said impregnated, to do. There's always something to need, to be passionate about, or long and desire for. All this emotional system business. It's the hope to pain and back again. It is the drive for fullness that we are longing for, reaching for. The feel good of the emotional system pleasure principle, pleasure and pain. We are locked into that game. And as we move through our understanding of the work of histidine, the histidine is going to turn this motor off. And it's not going to be able to turn it off for humans. We are human, you and I, human. Okay, this is a mutation. So the new beings born after the background frequency shift, when we have the mutation, when we have the break of synthesis, some people will carry that mutation, some won't. Some people who carry the mutation are going to carry the pure work of what the 55 is here for, abundance, negative spirit. Everything else will be impacted too. What to do? The 49, the 59, the 6, the whole story of our mutative shift written in our genetic codes. Fascinating to remember that if you're thinking about a motor, remember the motor source wave is here. This process of response ability, the ability to respond to intimacy, this 6 source of the wave, awareness frequency, the root of all of the waves, all of them. That is part of the mutation. We think about 55 and its histidine. Yeah? Its polarity is the 59 across in the sacral center, across the wheel and over into the sacral center. And this 49 business, also part of that histidine, that mutative shift. 59 is the harmonic gate. Harmonic simply means across the way within the same channel when we're talking about gates. And this is its track. 59, 55, 59 and 6 in that pure mutation of what it is to be a rave child, that is going to turn off the motor at the 6, unplugging from that up-down process, because this is where the motor originates. Energy in response, the availability to intimacy, to be open to intimacy. 6 is like a swinging door. You know those, you see those old Western movies with those bar fights and they have that bar door, yeah, swinging door. It opens or it closes to intimacy. That's where the emotional wave originates. That is what creates the source wave for all of our emotional frequencies, our chemistries. And what happens when the wave shuts down? When it comes to the child that is born, the rave child, it will be a shock like none other to give birth to a rave child. My heart goes out to you. I cannot imagine what that's going to be like, to look down at a child who is rave. I highly recommend that if you are of child-giving age and you want to have a child in future, that you research into 2027, that you know what it is that you're getting yourself into. Not that everyone will be rave. Remember, the 55, and the 49 histidine. When we look at this process of the children being born, there is going to be a mutative shift. And we will find that we have autistic creatures like we have never seen before. The impact of that mutative process on the 49 is like what in medical terminology you would call an aneurysm, according to Ra, as in shutting it down, this channel. We think about this channel getting squeezed. So, getting squeezed, and slowly but surely, because it becomes so narrow, it already is not working completely in the way in which it had originally been designed. Think of it like getting clogged, or like a hose being stepped on. The channel can no longer operate properly. Real channels inside of us, as far as our own authentic truth, if you have this channel, this is part of your genetic makeup. Don't worry. It's still part of you. It's the creatures being born after 2027 that will really have no access to that as a channel, because 49 will no longer reach to the 19. It will be cut off. These are geometrical pathways that are sparked the moment that a planet sits there in a gate, 49 in this case, holding the door open, and the other planet on the other side, the harmonic gate, holding the door open for that connective field, that life force, in this case the drive to have tribal awareness of principles, and this fear of nature, this fear of consequence. This 49 mutation is going to cut this channel in the new ones that are going to be born. After 2027, the mutative shift happens at the beginning of the year. So is it right for you to continue to explore what this means, not only in terms of what our drive to awaken may look like? This pressure to awaken, no longer part of the chemistry, of the makeup of human beings born after 2027, that shift. If it's right for you to continue to explore, I warmly invite you. Find the link in the description down below. And I'll see you whenever it's right for us to connect. Dear one, namaste.